Hi, it's Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading. It seems like it's a little shorter today. It's for April 16th, 1 Kings 10 and 11. Verse 1. After this, the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun, his son, reigned in his place. Wait, am I in the right place? Oh, no wonder. Hold on, bear with me. We've got the wrong chapter 8 and 9. No wonder. No, I mean 10 and 11. Sorry. Here we go. Verse 1. When the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning Yahweh's name, she came to test him with hard questions. She came to Jerusalem with a very great caravan, with camels that bore spices, very much gold, and precious stones. When she had come to Solomon, she talked with him about all that was in her heart. Solomon answered all her questions. There was not anything hidden from the king which he didn't tell her. When the queen of Sheba had seen all the wisdom of Solomon, the house he had built, the food of his table, the sitting of his servants, the attendance of his officials, their clothing, his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up to Yahweh's house, there was no more spirit in her. She said to the king, "It was true report that I heard in my own land of your acts and of your wisdom. However, I didn't believe the words until I came, and my eyes have seen it. Behold, not even half was told me. Your wisdom and prosperity exceed the fame which I heard. Happy are your men, happy are those your servants who stand by continually before you, who hear your wisdom. Blessed is Yahweh your God, who delighted in you to set you on the throne of Israel, because Yahweh loved Israel forever. Therefore he made you king to do justice and righteousness." She gave the king 120 talents of gold and a very great quantity of spices and precious stones. Never again was there such an abundance of spices as these which the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. The fleet of Hiram that brought gold from Ophir, that's what I talked about yesterday, also brought in from Ophir great quantities of almug trees and precious stones. The king made of the almug trees pillars for Yahweh's house and for the king's house, harps also and stringed instruments for the singers. No such almug trees came or were seen to this day. King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatever she asked, besides that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. So she turned and went to her own land, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, besides that which the traders brought, and the traffic of the merchants, and of all the kings of the mixed people, and of the governors of the country. King Solomon made 200 bucklers of beaten gold. 600 shekels of gold went out to one buckler. He made 300 shields of beaten gold. 3 minas of gold went to one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with the finest gold. There were 6 steps to the throne, and the top of the throne was round behind, and there were armrests on either side by the place of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the armrests. 12 lions stood there on the one side and on the other on the 6 steps. Nothing like it was made in any kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver, because it was considered of little value in the days of Solomon. For the king had a fleet of Tarshish at sea with Hiram's fleet. See? Hiram had, here it is, it says, the king had a fleet of Tarshish at sea with Hiram's fleet. Once every 3 years, the fleet of Tarshish came, bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. The apes and ivory make me think of Africa or other exotic lands. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom. All the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Year after year, every man brought his tribute, vessels of silver, vessels of gold, clothing, armor, spices, horses, and mules. Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen that he kept in the chariot cities and with the king at Jerusalem. The king made silver as common as stones in Jerusalem, and cedars as common as the sycamore trees that are in the lowland. The horses which Solomon had were brought out of Egypt. The king's merchants received them in droves, each drove at a price. A chariot came up and went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse 150 shekels. And so they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Assyria. Now, see, when I was reading it I'm reading it from a hardcover right now, but when I was reading it electronically, I could click on it and see what these units mean, how they, um, convert over to ours. I think it's interesting they had a unit called droves. All right, 11.1. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which Yahweh said to the children of Israel, "You shall not go among them, neither shall they come among you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods." Solomon joined to these in love. He had 700 wives, princes, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. When Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with Yahweh his God, as the heart of David his father was. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Solomon did that which was evil in Yahweh's sight and didn't go fully after Yahweh as David's father did. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, on the mountain that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. So he did for all his foreign wives who burned incense and sacrificed to their gods. Yahweh was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned away from Yahweh, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he didn't keep that which Yahweh commanded. Therefore Yahweh said to Solomon, "Because this is done by you, and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you, and will give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days for David your father's sake, but I will tear it out of your son's hands. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son, for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen." Yahweh raised up an adversary to Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was one of the king's offspring in Edom. For when David was in Edom, and Joab the captain of the army, and had gone up to bury the slain, and had struck every male in Edom, for Joab and all Israel remained there 6 months, until he had cut off every male in Edom. Hadad fled, and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, to go into Egypt when Hadad was still a little child. They rose out of Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them out of Paran, and they came to Egypt, to King Pharaoh of Egypt, who gave him a house and appointed him food and gave him land. Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him as wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Taphanes, the queen. The sister of Taphanes bore him Genubath his son, in whom Taphanes weaned in Pharaoh's house, and Genubath was in Pharaoh's house among the sons of Pharaoh. When Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the captain of the army was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Let me depart, that I may go to my own country." Then Pharaoh said to him, "But what have you lacked with me, that behold, you seek to go to your own country?" He answered, "Nothing, however, only let me depart." God raised up an adversary to him, Rezon the son of Eliada, who had fled from the Lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah. He gathered men to himself to become captain over a troop. When David killed them of Zobah, they went to Damascus and lived there and reigned in Damascus. He was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, beside the mischief of Hadad. He abhorred Israel and reigned over Syria. Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite of Zeradah, a servant of Solomon, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, widow, also lifted up his hand against the king. This was the reason why he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Milo and repaired the breach of his father David's city. The man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor, and Solomon saw the young man that he was industrious, and put him in charge of all the labor of the house of Joseph. At that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him on the way. Now Ahijah had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. Ahijah laid hold of the new garment that was on him, and tore it 12 pieces. He said to Jeroboam, "Take 10 pieces, for Yahweh, the God of Israel, says, Behold, I will tear the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and give 10 tribes to you. But he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because that they have forsaken me, and worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon. They have not walked in my ways, to do that which is right in my eyes, and to keep my statutes and ordinances, as David his father did. However, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my father's sake, whom I chose, who kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it to you, even 10 tribes. To his son I will give one tribe, that David my servant may have a lamp always before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen to put my name. I will take you, and you shall reign according to all that your soul desires, and shall be king over Israel. It shall be, if you listen to all that I command, and walk in my ways, and do that which is right in my eyes, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with you, and build you a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel to you. I will afflict the offspring of David for this, but not forever. Therefore Solomon sought to kill Jeroboam, but Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt to Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon and all that he did, and his wisdom, aren't they written in the book of the acts of Solomon? The time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in his father's David's city, and Rehoboam his son reigned in his place. So there's the dividing of the kingdom right there. Jeroboam's going to be in the north with 10 tribes, Rehoboam in the south with Judah and Benjamin. And I don't know why I kept saying I'm just going to give him one tribe, because it ends up 10 in the north, 2 in the south. And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just how I've always known it. So several monumentous things have happened in the last couple of days. We had the dedication of the temple, then we have other aspects of Solomon's reign and his death, and the beginning of the divided kingdom. So thanks for joining me today. That one was short and sweet. God bless you. Be sure to check the description for some helpful information. Bye bye.